Turn 10 New Forza has been long in the making to bring a racing title from the ground up. After going through it, I must say they should have taken longer. Patient is what you need to be with the introduction series of the games, as Forza puts the player through the mandatory tutorial with the most annoying assistance system. Almost every single line spoken is non-skippable, and the assistant will treat the player as if they were a little child. I know, I have played Forza before, please stop. I'm dying inside. As for Forza itself, it has always been a car playground. You pick up a car, you do crazy stuff with it, you build it to your eye's content. Here is where we see the first big departure from the old format, and it's one that, in my opinion, can somewhat kill the enjoyment out of the game, as it did it for me. So before, credits were the way forward for getting upgrades and such. Turn 10 wanted to bring something different, a little more focused to build a relationship between the driver and the pretend race car. So instead of making the credits useless by giving so many cars out as bonuses and discounts with brand affinity, and of course refusing to balance all of this to more manageable levels, they decided to make credits secondary by making it relatively easy to still get credits, but in the other hand, offering up the car level system. This is a car collecting game, so cars are just like Pokemon, you gotta catch them all. Turn 10 wanted to Pokemon the crap out of Forza, where not only you collect them, but also try to level it up to make them the very best, like no car ever was. In this case, you gotta get car XP to get car points, so you can get mods to improve your PI. Does it sound confusing? Well, it's really more annoying than confusing. Every time you go around the track or do a section of the track in the way you should, or do an overtake, Forza will give you a little bit of car XP. Once you get enough to pass a level, you gain car points. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna call it I don't want to be blocked by YouTube, and by the way, Turn 10, what a stupid choice of an acronym. These car points that you'll get after leveling up will allow you to go to the tuning menu and choose upgrades as long as you have enough points to do them. Therefore, here it comes the first gameplay issue. It takes about 2 to 3 hours of regular gameplay to unlock all upgrades. To get tires, you need to go all the way to level 11. All of these upgrades are made car-in-car basis, so if you want to build another car, same model for a different reason, you have to go through this grind again. So let's imagine you want to build a bunch of drift cars. For each car, it's at least 1 hour of relentless grinding to have the most basic of drift mods. If you want to do engine swaps, well, that sucks. Forza is your life now. I do understand the logic behind this, it's to build a connection to the car, but once again, the Pokemon analogy works here. You don't upgrade all Pikachus at the same time, you have to grind every single Pikachu to get the upgrades. This might not have been such a big problem if it wasn't for the way the events made these upgrades points such a pain. Still, being fair, the way they made the XP system work in the game is a nifty way to learn the tracks, as hitting higher section scores will give you a little more XP. I saw this in Need for Speed Shift and I think it works really well. The events are the same run-of-the-mill events as any other racing game or Forza. They are teamed championships, you choose the car based on a team. There are roughly 30 at the moment, none of them enough to get your bang spanking new car all the way to max level. You are probably now seeing the big issue with the upgrade economy. The time it takes to level up is too damn high. Still, inside the events, the event structure has changed to make it feel a little more like a championship. I think it's a good call. Now there's an optional practice session before the race, and I say it's optional because it's possible to get out of it, but in reality you are thrown into it and have to exit. But anyways, this session is a way to get accustomed to the car, maybe change the setups, with the stock setups aren't really that good, but most importantly to get some extra car upgrade points and some extra car experience points. Here you'll get a sense of the handling of the car and also a bit of a taste of the AI. There's an interesting change as well. I think this is a positive one. It's now possible to choose where to start from. If you start from the back, it generates extra credits. Still, the main criticism I have in terms of gameplay structure is that the progression is far too restrictive as of this point. There needs to be some balancing done where some unlocks are locked behind the driving like they wanted to do, and some unlocks need to be brand specific, car model specific, or globally unlocked. I understand what Turn 10 wants to do, but they are offering the exact opposite of Playground does and what they did for years as well. Without some sort of balancing act, I don't think this is a way forward. As this is a single-player racing game as well, you get to share the track with the AI, and the AI needs work, a lot of it. As of this moment, it's one of the biggest problems Forza has. Difficulty-wise, I don't find them that difficult. Some tracks seem to have a better skill rating for the AI than others. You can also change the difficulty of the AI, gain bonuses and such. The problem is sharing the track with the AI. It's good that they aren't the moving traffic cones that normally are associated with Gran Forzismo. It's also good that the race format we now have, due to choosing the position you're gonna start from, isn't the same old can I do first to last challenge that happens a lot in iRacing videos. The problem arises at trying to race side by side, from behind or from the front. Turn 1 is rarely clean, and if you're not getting pushed around by the AI will have no problems whatsoever pushing the other AI around for a good old vehicular murder. To be fair, I don't dislike it. I think it has a place in racing, wreckfest or otherwise. In places, at club level, real life, aggressive dirty drivers exist. The problem is the if-car gap is always there, no matter the series, no matter the car. As the field stretches, this happens far less, but the Kimi Velocini meets 1500i rating fields vibe is here all the time. Oftentimes, their racing skills drops to the bottom where they fail to understand a racing line or even where to brake. It is frustratingly common to go through an apex at speed just to understand that the AI decided to stop in front of us. Driving is where another big change is seen. The handling is one of the main changes of Forza, and Turn 10 is very proud to make this new handling model completely new, from the ground up. I have mixed feelings. I think cars generally will handle as they supposed to, as in power acceleration or general handling derived from the car layout. That means a car with front engine, rear wheel drive will act like one, a midship will act like one as well, and front wheel driven cars will act like one as well. If you throttle up while making a corner, you're gonna understeer. A Porsche can't turn while on throttle and will pork you on corners, though there are a few things I don't quite understand. The cars can be extremely drifty. It reminds me of Need for Speed Shift, while at the same time being distinctively Forza. So what I think is that the handling model lacks a little bit of finesse. Modern cars, racing cars even, always seem to be on edge when they should be planted, even with stock suspension and tires. I'm not going to say it drives bad, because it doesn't. What I want to say is that compared to the Eternal Rival, it lacks some of the clinical details in the driving mechanics, making the handling too out there most of the time. With just a little bit of extra power you added through mods, every car is basically a drift machine or handles like a muscle car. It needs a little bit of a tone down, it needs to be a little more grounded. If it had more of that clinical feel or clinical nature of Gran Turismo without going all the way out there, this new Forza would have been something special. And I say this because the tire model is actually pretty easy to understand where the grip is and even how much grip is there. It has something special, like a progressive feel without a sudden cliff like a certain well-celebrated sim has. It is natural and believable, all helped with an interesting force feedback. Some of the issues that I'm complaining about are partly the setups, but when a stock car that can't have its setup change works like a drift machine, I think there's something wrong with the stock setups or the differential or the way the tires are working from cold. There's something wrong there. On the subject of handling, we have to talk about the dynamic weather, and this is not something I like as of this moment. It does feel a little bit too inconsistent. In terms of looks, I'd say it looks reasonable, even if over the top when it doesn't really need to. The way it interacts with the handling, I think it's very mediocre. I haven't found a time where it was needed to pit for wets due to lack of grip. Essentially, you just need to control your throttle and braking a little more, don't brake as hard, control the throttle a little more, and you don't feel like you're losing any time against the AI that is on wet tires. It is extremely mediocre and an unpolished feature. I talked about the force feedback, and I think with the wheel basically where I mostly used it, Forza feels pretty darn good. I use the Fanatec TD1, affiliate links below if you want to help the channel out, and also the Acetec Forte. Acetec is a boutique brand, so I was surprised that was detected and had no problems out of the box. The wheel feel though will feel very extremely dampened even if you removed it to 0 on the wheelbase in the game. So this is something that I don't particularly like. It has a constant force into it, but it can transmit the feeling of the cars extremely well. The curbs, the loss of grip, oversteer, understeer, everything is well defined and also works quite well with the suspension settings change. Cars with stock suspension will feel floaty through the wheel, and cars with race suspension will feel definitely more grabby and more agile. Everything is well detailed in your wheel. The curbs in Forza are some of the closest I felt in track days, so it's really well done. Compared to the eternal rival, the Gran Turismo series, the force feedback is responsive through the tire slip angle limit and really past them. So understanding what the tires are doing is easy, at least for me, and therefore drifting is something that is natural to learn and not too dissimilar to other sims, even including Assetto Corsa. Polyphony Digital has definitely a few things to learn about this. Still, the default settings have a huge dead zone ingrained that needs to be removed. It's only 1% in game, but that's already too much, as it basically clears 5% of your steering wheel. It will have an unfeeling or no feeling whatsoever. The stock settings are also very strange as well. You really need to go through the list if you are using a wheel. Also, why the hell does this game go back to stock wheel presets after restarting the game? Let me choose the default. This is really annoying. And also annoying is using the clutch in Forza or the H pattern shifter with the manual clutch. The clutch is extremely inconsistent. You need to let it go through the shift at its own pace. It's completely detached from what you're doing with the clutch pedal. But then I found that upgrading the flywheel in clutch makes the clutch faster until it doesn't. But there isn't any clutch mechanical damage shown, so I really don't know. Maybe the garage wants the car in for servicing, I guess. Even though driving on the wheel was my main thing, I did dabble with the controller, and the controller driving is top-notch in my opinion. Here we see a good job well done. Generally in the controls, I think Forza did a very good job. I don't have the latest controller. The one I have, it's a Xbox One type. I believe is a first or second gen that came with the Oculus Rift. The haptics are fantastic. They give you just the right amount of feedback with loss of traction, ABS engaging, and so on. I believe the gamepad's gameplay to be extremely good. Thus far, we have weird gameplay mechanics that cuts with the past and with Forza quite a bit. But I guess they wanted to keep something from the old Forzas as well, because the graphics feel incredibly dated. It's weird, and it comes from a couple of angles. First of all of these criticisms are from the PC, though I must say that what I've seen from the Xbox videos, it doesn't seem to be any different in significant ways. Looks are extremely bipolar in Forza. They can have beautiful scenes where the light looks better than Gran Turismo, then 2 seconds later the image becomes crunched, contrasty, and a mess. Forza Horizon, on the other hand, looks absolutely stunning 100% of the time. I don't get it. I know it's a different studio and such, but such a massive difference isn't really explainable with just this. And the looks don't get any better with car models, as Turn 10 took a page out of Polyphony Digital Gran Turismo 5 and 6 and decided to use Forza 4 models in 2023. I know that they have done it in the past on the previous games, but still it looks worse here than then. The interiors will feel jagged, the material shaders aren't really good, and the game will become dated because of it. Outside, even with the newer models, the paint quality, the reflections, the way the light works feels like I'm racing 2 generations ago. Once again, I'm all for older racing titles, but this is a AAA title with AAA prices. The tracks aren't that much better. The track models not only feel dated, but they feel like they aren't accurate at all. I know they say the track models are laser scanned, but I see issues. All other titles that are laser scanned have essentially the same track. They have the same elevations, the same minute differences, and sudden track depressions. This means if you are going to jump from one title to the other, Gran Turismo to Assetto Corsa to iRacing to ACC, what you ended up happening is that the track is extremely predictable and you understand where everything is. Besides the track components on the side, the tracks are exactly the same. An example would be Spa. It's pre or route change, which is totally fine, but the change feels absurdly off. It's not the FOV, which is changeable by the way, but when you put it side by side with the ACC or Gran Turismo, something is off in all the real world tracks. Now, content-wise, lots of tracks are missing, like Brands Hatch, Monza, Nordschleife, that will come later, Imola, Road America, but also Alps, Rio, or Prague. The track list isn't expensive in the least. The car selection is generally okay, as it covers most of the most popular brands and models that you want to have. Still, you know what it means. While it's out for Arambe, pay up for those DLCs. Let's talk about performance now. The performance is ass on the PC. I know I don't have the best PC, but I think a 7700X with a 4070 should be enough to play this without a hiccup. Close to max settings in Forza Horizon 5 grants a great running game at over 100 FPS pretty much all the time with excellent visual quality. Here I'm getting 60 to 120, fluctuating all the time, in a title that doesn't look anything as good as Horizon and at times looks worse than Forza 3. I would like to talk about multiplayer, as I did a few races and I did the mandatory races for the sorting hat. In my case is Slytherin at A4600 or something like that. I want to delve deeper into the multiplayer as it wasn't bad, but this will be a topic for another video when I got more races under my belt. The races weren't bad in terms of racecraft, it's way better than AI. Though, to be noticed is that the multiplayer races are locked to 60 FPS to ensure fair play. Do we have FPS-based physics systems that can be messed around with? I don't know. Alright, doing this review is strange. Forza 3 and 4 for me are up there with the best racing games I've ever played, and I think they are some of the best racing games ever, period. Doing a 2ZZ swapped pink Igo will always be there in one of the most celebrated racing moments. I'm always very fond of these type of collect and modify racing games. I always loved Forza and Gran Turismo's, warts and all, for what they want to do. They want to bring you into car culture, they want you to like cars. I think it's something fantastic. Still, I can't say that Forza Motorsports 8, or whatever this is called now, is a title that feels compelling to me. Technically, visually, it's a mediocre game, if that. It looks horrible, it performs horrible, it's not at a good state. Cyberpunk was like that, but I actually enjoyed Cyberpunk. It had something different. And what I found is that Forza is mediocre in pretty much everything and except on the driving, but if I want to have a title mediocre in everything except for the driving, I might rather drive Assetto Corsa. Besides the gameplay, Forza has a gameplay system that halts the progression to a stop by forcing too much of the upgrades through a lengthy unlock system on a per car basis. It's bad as it is, but the choices are either go through the endless grinding laps or racing against an AI suffering from cyber psychosis. Well, I'm going to play much more of this, especially online.